You see them hanging there.
Yep.
You not ready back there? Everybody, going to call the meeting of the Halfmoon Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Meeting is being recorded live for CNET's YouTube channel. First up, any public comments on anything on or off the agenda? If anybody'd like to speak, please come up to the table. And Mr. Merrick?
And where I'm from.
Yeah, just give us
Andy Merritt,
routine.
Andy Merritt, 170 James Hill Road. Real short tonight. I look and I see Chief Witherwright and another firefighter here. I just want to thank them because they were here 12 hours ago. And I just want to make sure that as we get into budget season that we're fully funding what his request is going to be. It's pretty straightforward. I would even advocate to go back to he asked 2 years ago for a 2 mil dedicated fire levy. And we need to make sure that the fire company and the EMS is fully funded. That's all I have.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Ms. Squire.
I just have a quick question. Virginia Squire, Loveville Road, yada, yada, yada. I was reviewing the CNET recordings today, and I remembered the resolution that you passed asking about other townships funding the fire department. And I just wanted to say, what's the status on that? Have we gotten any feedback?
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ron.
I don't understand the question.
Has anybody from the other municipalities, I assume anybody from the other municipalities made a commitment towards funding the fire
Or the
company?
state, did we get a response from the state? Because I'm assuming we sent that to the state?
Sent what?
We drafted, and I could look, but we drafted.
Okay, Virginia's
Thank
talking
you.
about the letter that we drafted to the.
Oh,
sent
to
the
support
state
for the
legislature,
EMS.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
Okay,
thinking
now,
fire company.
all right,
That's
now
what
I can't recall exactly what that said, but
we-
it
we
was
had-
it was to lobby for additional state aid.
and it was to lobby against insurance companies,
Yes.
as I recall, skating on their portion of the payment.
Okay, I don't think we've
did
received
not
any kind of
receive-
For
response.
the EMS,
I
yeah.
did not receive a response except for, Bob Casey sent something and said if it got to his level, he would support it, but I didn't receive anything from anybody else.
Yeah, I had
We
a
did have
feeling.
some, other Center County, townships follow suit though and do a resolution and sent them out, so
Okay.
we did have that happen.
We haven't heard anything back from our state representatives, unfortunately, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mark Lively, Port Matilda Borough Council President and a member of the Port Matilda EMS Board of Directors. I am primarily here to answer any questions that the supervisors have for the EMS Board of Directors.
Anybody have anything special?
Okay.
I don't have anything. I think you guys have been doing a great job. So.
Thank you. As for other municipalities and answering her question, as for other municipalities, on Tuesday, Port Matilda had a special election and advertised our tax rates or advertised our ordinance to set the taxes for next year. The advertisement may be happening soon, but we have dedicated 1 mil to the ambulance and 2 to fire.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Chris Merritt, 170 James Hill Road. I just want to really implore you to think about fully funding our fire department. I kind of see having a fire department as like being pregnant. Either you are pregnant or you aren't. There's no kind of pregnant, 50% pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. We either have a fully functioning fire department funded and run by volunteers, or we don't. There's no partial. They don't send 3/4 of a truck. They don't work on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's every day, 24 hours a day, all the time. So I'm asking you, I'm imploring you to please, we have the money. Let's stop playing games. Let's fully fund them. I don't want my family's safety dependent upon whether other townships are able to provide for their citizens the way we can. We trust you. You're sitting in these seats because we trust you. Please do the right thing. Please fully fund them. Don't make them keep coming back to meeting after meeting. Don't play Santa Claus later in the year. Fully fund them. I don't want 3/4 of a truck showing up at my house when electricity strikes my house like it did 2 years ago. If you've ever needed the fire department, you appreciate them more than anything. I'm just saying, fully fund them. That's all I gotta say. Thanks.
Mr. Boyer.
Mr. Piper. Reed Moyer, Lynn Circle. I had 2 topics. First was the job descriptions that I read through in the minutes. I've done a lot of work in my career with role clarity and making sure people know what they're responsible for and work together. I read through those and I think they could be improved. Both job descriptions share exact same wordings on a number of tasks. And it says responsible for XYZ, and over here responsible for XYZ, both the secretary and the treasurer. The problem with that is that if 2 people are responsible, nobody's responsible. So you may well run into problems with that. With Amy and Brett, I don't think there's probably any issues. They probably work it out, but you don't write job descriptions for people, you write them for jobs. So I think you need to separate who is accountable for each of those different tasks. I mean, where does the buck stop? Who's the one who said that's not good enough? Otherwise, you can end up with finger pointing. If something goes wrong, there's no one to blame. Often you'll have somebody above a position who's accountable, but in this case, I think you need to look more closely at those responsibilities and assign them so someone is what they usually call accountable for making sure it's done well. So I would urge you to consider doing that before you accept the job descriptions. Great people in the jobs now, you get somebody new, it could be trouble. Secondly, the plan to hire a planner. I got a little uncomfortable with the idea of hiring someone from a construction and engineering firm to be a planner for the township. I guess in my view, the planner was somebody who was an advocate for the township, who looks at plans coming in, makes suggestions, tries to improve them, and is looking out for the good of the township. It seems like a planner who comes from a construction engineering background comes out of a milieu of let's build it, let's get her done. Their focus is on building and construction, not on the good of the township. I think it'd be much better served by having a planner that knows the township, cares about the township, and is focused on the good of the township, not coming from a background and an area of just building things, because oftentimes the right plan is to not build something. So I'd urge you to, although money is very important, I think in this case, money is less important than good planning, because good planning will last forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
On the job description part.
Yes.
If you have like a small department like we do, and you wanna make sure people are cross-trained and they can understand each other's jobs, so that they can fill in for each other, how do you handle that on a job description? Because one may be the primary, or as you say, the responsible, accountable party, but then another one still needs to understand those tasks and
Yeah,
be able
there's
to do
nothing
those
wrong with having
tasks.
two people doing the same job and people coaching each other in a job. It's just, what you wanna make sure is that there's one person where the buck stops. So if there's any issues, if there's a decision to be made, then that's the person you go to. And they're the ones who say, we're doing it
So
this way.
you could say responsible for, and then maybe on the other one say knowledge of this or that.
Yeah, or works with, or
Yeah.
assists in,
Yeah.
or,
Okay.
something like that. I just split them up a
Thank you.
little better, because having two people responsible, often you use a RACI chart where if someone's responsible means they do the work. Someone's accountable means they're the one who is responsible for final quality and making sure things are done well and makes decisions about that. You can be accountable and responsible, but you can only have one person who's accountable. You know, a lot of people are responsible, but only one accountable. So I would, and if you want to, I can gladly look at them and work with whomever and straighten them out a little bit.
Okay, thank you, appreciate
Anything
that.
else? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You gotta put an aisle off the middle there.
Hi, everybody. Lenore Foster, Ike Circle, Halfmoon Township. Until we become fully funded, the EMS is continuing to do fundraising left and right. You've probably seen our flamingo flocks, which has been very successful. It's going so well that they're going to cut it off and then start it again in the spring, because there's still a lot of people that want flocks. In the meantime, we're having a wreath sale, and we'll be at the craft fair at Stony Bottom on Reese Hollow on October 28th, the Saturday, from 9 to 4. Where we'll be selling raffle tickets and wreaths. And of course, it's that time of year. Sandwich and soup sale again. We'll be having sandwiches and soup for sale here and at the church on Election Day. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, nobody else? Approval of the minutes for September 25th and September 28th. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Comments, questions? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Consent agenda. This is to approve the general fund in the amount of $67,805.82, and the open space preservation fund in the amount of $289. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up, Fort Matilda EMS grant resolution. Maybe you want to just give a quick rundown?
Yeah, I was approached by the Fort Matilda EMS Board of Directors, some of the members, to see if we could help them apply for a grant on their behalf. They can't apply for it on their own, so they have to go through a municipality. The board needs to pass a resolution making me the, you said the word earlier, David, now I can't think of it.
The point person,
Yeah,
the director.
the point, to apply for the grant and take care of any paperwork that needs done, or, and so that's what this resolution is for.
And what would that resolution number be?
It's 2023-31.
31. Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2023-31, appointing Amy Smith as the person to operate and control the grant application for the fire company?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Questions by the board?
You said fire company, but I think it's.
Or,
It's EMS.
EMS, sorry, EMS.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We have a,
Real quick.
When it's time, I have a question.
go ahead.
Okay. I just was wondering, is there a disclosed amount or need or what they're gonna use it for?
I was told it was for a transportation van. I do need to get an amount from them though, because it does need to go in the resolution.
Okay. All right.
So we don't have an amount yet.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm sorry, I can't think of her name. She
The-
typically does the grants for you.
Susan.
Susan, I've been talking with Susan.
Okay.
So
Well,
she
the
was doing some
transportation
research
manager-
on
He's
that.
the manager.
As a transportation manager, I appreciate your helping with
Oh,
that.
sure.
And the opportunity to get a grant for a new van. I mean, the van we're using now, I mean, it's serving its purpose, but its life expectancy isn't too long. It has a few issues, but it is safe for the time being. But just a little update, we now have seven volunteer drivers. We've done 13 transports in the last 3 months, about one a week we've been averaging. We have 2 next week. I think it's been bringing in, about $2,800 a month in income for the EMS, I've been told. We hope to, our goal is to maybe at least double that number of transports, at least 2 a week if we can, within the next, by the end of the year. Most of our jobs are coming out of a contract, like a contract company from Harrisburg that's getting these through insurance companies for us to do. And they're taking care of all the paperwork and that's worked out good. But we're now getting mechanisms in place where we can do our own billing and have our own payment systems and stuff. So we're gonna start marketing it more locally to the public. So hopefully we'll be able to double the number that we're doing. But,
Sounds good.
It's going well.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, moved and seconded for the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Next up, Center County Liquid Fuels Grant.
Nope, you got the Brenton and
Oh,
Erica
yeah,
Schaffner.
sorry about that. Brent and Erica Schaffner, Open Space Preservation Lease Amendment, possible action. Apparently, when the original contract was signed, there was an error made in the document as to the number of years of the cash advance. And so in order to get that corrected, we need to amend it.
So this is a correction in order to provide
To
the
make
proper
make it right.
term and,
Information.
okay.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, I've got a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we're up to the Center County Liquid Fuels Grant. And Chuck?
So,
Okay.
staff is looking for direction on a Autumn Circle resurfacing project. That would include a fiber mat interlayer, as well as resurfacing, and we are interested in applying for the Center County Liquid Fuels Grant, for the total amount of that project, which, comes to $73,825.42 is what the proposed amount is.
You're looking for the total thing to be in a liquid fuels grant.
Correct, yep, looking to apply for that this year.
I think our chances are gonna be somewhat thinned out, because we did get a nice grant last year from the county, and it's rare to get it 2 years in a row, but I have no objection to running forward with it and trying to do what we can do.
Sounds good.
Anybody wanna make a motion to approve the application?
I move to approve
May I
the
have a second?
application.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. Foreign fire relief distribution. Okay, annually, we get a check-in from the state through insurance companies, collect the money up and give it to the municipalities to give out foreign fire relief. Generally given to the foreign fire relief for the fire departments. And I guess the question here tonight is, how do we want to divvy it?
I believe we have a distribution plan, do we not, Brett? Or at least
A plan, no. A suggestion for
Suggestion.
now, yes.
we have a coverage map.
Yes, there's a new coverage map that was mapped out by CRPA earlier this year. In it, it broke down the distribution of area as Port Matilda covering 70% of the area, Warriors Mark 30. Historically, that's what was agreed on in the past. Then we discovered it's actually 58 Port Matilda, 25 Warriors Mark, and 17% Alpha because they have a bulk of the game lands over by the Halfmoon patent line. So really just to not neglect Alpha existing, I brought it in front of the board. Historically, this doesn't come in front of the board. I wanted to bring it in front of the board in case they wanted to change the distribution and split it 3 ways.
Is there not a property, are there not properties, occupied dwellings?
Yes.
Within the coverage area of Alpha?
Mhm.
Is that 17%?
Yeah, the map shows, from what the map can tell, it is 16 addressable units.
Okay. So we have a distribution of 58% Port Matilda, Warriors Mark being 25%, and Alpha being 17%.
If you would follow the coverage map, correct.
And this money goes into the fire relief
The
funds
foreign
for
firemen's
each.
relief, yeah.
Fire Relief
for each
Association for
company.
each fire company.
Correct.
Each has its own Fire Relief
How
Association.
much money are we talking on the total amount or allocation?
20,477.94.
So 11,877 would be Port Matilda, 51,1949 would be Warriors Mark, and $3,481.25 would be Alpha Fire Company.
Correct.
I move to approve the distribution as stated, as per the breakdown provided by the staff.
Here a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? And Brett, that is the formula we are going to be using in future years.
If the board so chooses, yes.
Do you think it's a fair formula?
We're just talking the fire relief fund.
Fireman's Relief Fund, you know.
For foreign fire relief, I think it's fair only because that is subject to just Halfmoon. The state gives it to us to distribute,
Yeah.
where everything else is multi-municipality, so I don't see an issue with it. Because truth be told, it's not our money to actually, we're a pass-through, so.
Right. It's
Well,
state
I know,
money.
but we get to choose how
Right.
to divvy it up. And we want to do it fair.
But for years, to be fair, for years, the Alpha Fire Company has been covering a portion of this township, okay, without compensation, without direct compensation, am I right?
You are correct, yes.
All right, any other discussion by the board? I'll take one from the audience here.
I just was wondering about, even though the areas are being considered, the actual number of housing units are not being considered. And I think if you did percentages on those formulas, it'd be totally different percentages. Granted, nobody wants a brush fire either, but when you got 5 or 10 houses and 17%, you got, I don't know, 500 or something in Port Matilda's area. I
Right.
mean, the value of property and all that kind of stuff. Maybe, maybe there should be some weighted average of considering the number of dwellings you're talking about in the same formulas.
And
Just
what
the-
you're
just the overall
suggesting
formula.
would be the formulas that were passed earlier with the resolution to account for the funding. They weighted area as well as addressable units. That is an option as well.
Okay.
How would that change do you have the formula for that, Brian?
I have the percentages, the amount of
that's what I
distribution,
know.
I don't know, but the percentages would be 74% Port Matilda, 17% Warriors Mark, and 9% Alpha, if you average addressable units and percentage of area.
Average.
That makes more sense.
Okay, any other discussion by the board?
That's a big difference.
And a call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You got an A?
Nah, nay. I like the other formula, but
All right, motion passes. Treasurer's job description, and I'm gonna lump the secretary's job description together.
We have a distribution of the $25,000
Why I can't see that?
additional fire
I got the
funding.
wrong glasses on. Distribution of 25,000 additional fire funding, discussion and possible action. Brett, I assume that's you.
Yeah, if you remember December 8th of 2022, there was a vote for you to distribute an additional $25,000 to, at the time, it was made Port Matilda and Warriors Mark for capital expenditures. That's how the motion read. Nothing else specifically was given. At this point, to clean everything up before year end, we need to distribute that money. Tonight, you choose how that is distributed.
Well, to clarify, the resolution, does that limit the distribution to Port Matilda Fire Company and Warriors Mark? Or does it not?
That would be completely up to you. For now, the motion reads Port Matilda and Warriors Mark for capital expenditures in the amount of $25,000. So for now, you have to distribute $25,000 between those two fire companies. I assume you're referring to include Alpha.
Yeah.
You would have to rescind that motion and make a new motion, is how you would do that.
I'd like to stick to the original.
I don't want to. I don't think it's fair. Again, we have a, Alpha Fire Company's been covering this township, a percentage of this township for years, and has been neglected, has not received any appropriation from the Halfmoon Township. And I don't think that's fair. I just don't think it's fair. And there's a lot of back payments in that too. And we rely on that fire company, as well as Port Matilda and Warriors Mark. And
I
they've
know
been the
Nick-
first responders here numerous times.
Patty, go ahead.
according to this map, though, there's 16 addressable units, and we don't know if all those are permanent. Some of those could be camps, correct?
Correct. They very well could be camps. I suspect being out in the game lands, a majority of them are.
Right, and I think, and I know that's still important, but then you're comparing that with over almost, then there's like, what, I can't do the math, but 1,000 addressable units in the Port Matilda and 95 in Warriors Mark. So I, for this, and since we've talked about this in the past, I agree with Dave, and I think there's also a greater need with the smaller fire companies.
Well,
And for this amount, for budgeting and regular compensation, if we use the formula that also includes the population and the households with the area, you know, then I think for budgeting and ongoing support, I think that's fine, but I think for this special for capital needs, I'd rather,
well, I know
But
we've
this-
had
See it
many
go.
and numerous brush fires out in the game lands.
right.
And some of them were started by the residents along the edge of the game lands. I mean, it's all important.
But I want to point out something. This extra money was an idea of some people on the board, but not all. And this was additional money in addition to the budget requests and the budget appropriations, even the stated capital amounts, capital appropriations. This was an additional amount of money to throw at the fire companies. This was not something that was budgeted. That was additional money that was, it doesn't,
Excuse me,
it was additional money that it was in unencumbered, but it was additional money that was available to do this. It was not something that was a stated need. Okay, what I'm saying is that there's 3 fire companies covering the township, and we're ignoring one of them.
All 3 were at the fire this morning.
And they've been there, and they've been at other fires too. All I'm saying is there should be some kind of distribution, and I don't have a problem with changing, and not using the distribution for the foreign fire relief. We don't have to use that percentage. We could recalculate this and do this at a later time. And we have till the end of the year to do this.
Correct. That's the one thing I want to clarify, just based on what I'm hearing. This 25,000 is not from the fire protection levy. This is from the general out of a deficit spend plan. The fire tax levy has nothing to do with this tonight. That's the only thing I wanted to clarify. And to your point, yes, if you can't come to a decision, this can be brought back to you on another agenda.
Roseanne, you got a,
I think Alpha is our third fire company. I think we need to support them.
To
fairly
some extent.
Also, fairly, whatever that is.
well. Mr. Beck's not here tonight,
Yes,
unfortunately.
and I don't think we're ignoring Alpha, we're gonna be budgeting for them in the future, but this came up before that, it's a smaller amount, and I think there's a greater need between the two fire companies than there is at Alpha for this type of amount that we're talking about. So,
Mr. Sabella, since you're spearheading the difference here.
I move that we table this to a later date until we can work out the distribution properly.
Okay, I got a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board?
I have it's not an issue of whether or not we support the fire companies. We certainly do. They're essential to our existence, okay? I don't know, I can't state it any more strongly than that. However, this appropriations are based on approved budgets that we can agree on, and they need to be demonstrated budgets. They need, expenditures need to be reported. We need to have an understanding of expenditures, and oftentimes we do not. I attend the Upper Bald Eagle Halfmoon COG meetings, and I get the reports from the fire company and EMS. Okay, so, but when I can't, when I don't feel comfortable with what's happening with money, then I'm not going to vote to put more money in or throw more money at the problem. I'm just not.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just want to point out, so according to this memo, this motion actually passed with all 5 votes in agreement. So my question is what has changed?
Well, that's what we're trying to work out. What has partially changed is we found out that Alpha actually has coverage for part of the township. And I know there's a lot of cabins out there, but there's a lot of brush fires. So just because it's not a house, because it's a farm field, because it's woods, doesn't mean it doesn't burn. So, and I do agree that we need to support Alpha, and my thought was that we would do that in 2024.
I agree.
And distribute this, but we do not have a full board up here tonight either. And I think it's gonna be a major decision, and I think it's appropriate that the full board vote on it. And I don't, it doesn't matter to me whether we include Alpha or we don't include Alpha in this thing. I mean, I just wanna see if the money gets to the fire companies and they're able to do what they need to do with it. But others feel strongly about it, and so I think we ought to have
And I'll just add something else. My understanding was that we could have distributed this money differently than the original intent, okay? That was my understanding. Now, if I'm wrong, I stand corrected, okay? But what I'm saying is, if that's not the case, then I think we need to have actual discussion on this issue.
Well, we can distribute the money any way we want to distribute it, as long as it goes to the fire company.
But we need to discuss that, because if this memo states that that's the way we gotta distribute it, okay, that we gotta distribute a certain portion to Port Matilda and a certain portion to Warder's Mark, so be it. But I wanna have that discussion.
Okay. You said you wanted to table it until when?
Till our budget discussions. which
Budget.
are next week.
Okay.
It's next year.
Well, if you table something and you don't put a date, then it's going to the.
Well, then I think we should move this to the 18th, is it the 18th?
That is our first budget meeting,
And discuss it then.
In agreement with that? Who? Okay, so we got a motion, a second to table it for the discussion to the 18th.
Now rescind any recommendation to distribute it differently until such time as we have that discussion.
Okay.
Can I just ask one simple question? So, but the money will be appropriated
Oh,
this year,
yes.
because I'm sure they're
It has to
counting
be,
on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And so
we've
the
already-
orders Mark.
We've already agreed to do it,
Okay.
we just, whether Alpha gets included or not, I don't know.
I don't know how you do it with
Hmm?
Alpha. With that, with the way it's written, you don't do it with Alpha
Well,
unless you rescind it.
Not,
and
not
s-
right now. No,
Right.
The board could change the resolution.
They could, yeah.
And my question is the October 18th, that's a budget meeting for next year's budget. Is that the appropriate
2024.
place to discuss this?
Well, it can be
Since this
discussed
is
then.
allocated for this
Well,
year?
we don't have a full board, so,
Right.
Or we can do it on the 26th, our next meeting.
yeah, I'd rather.
We
do it
have
on
till the end of the
18th,
year to allocate this money.
So we can get it out there, but
That's all it is. Okay.
I don't really wanna wait on it. But if we're talking about budget stuff, we ought to talk about, or we're going to talk about, allocation for all three fire companies as
Yeah,
well.
because you can't vote on it on the 18th, you can just discuss it,
Right.
correct?
Well, yeah.
The regularly advertised meeting, correct?
But it's regular, it's like budget meeting.
We have to put it on the agenda in order to discuss
Yeah,
it.
we'd have to put it on the agenda, but we have time to put it on the agenda, so, meet the sunshine requirements.
But we could just as easily do it on the 26th of October at another regular meeting. But I have my reasons why I feel the way I do. And I can demonstrate them too.
All right, well, let's put that discussion forward to the meeting of the 18th.
Yep.
And, all right, so let's call for the question. All those in favor of moving it to the 18th and discussing it at the time of the budget meeting? Hopefully we'll have a full board there. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Okay. Treasurer's job description and secretary's job description. Mr. Moyer has read over it and kindly given his comments and seems to be willing to supply some additional information, which
Well, the way I feel about it is this, and I have a little experience with job descriptions as well, having been a manager for 37 years, or close to 37 years. First of all, job descriptions can be changed anytime to suit the need, to suit the employer's need, no matter what that is, number one. Number two, right now, the situation is we have two people that need to cover for each other. So they need to have knowledge in other words, they have to be cross-trained in some aspects. There are some, I think, could be a little clarification in terms of the enumerated duties of a treasurer and the enumerated duties of a secretary that did not stand out to me when I read them. Okay? Maybe we could do some more work on that. But it's important, it's imperative that we get job descriptions for these two employees as soon as we can.
Oh, I agree.
I think that we could I haven't frankly had a long time to sit down and read them and provide, line by line suggestions or recommendations for the board to review. I mean, I think we need to have the time to do that. And we have a little more time, I believe, to do it.
All right, well, if Mr. Moyer wanted to present some information, I think we would welcome that.
I'm really busy, so I wouldn't be available until tomorrow.
But
All right.
I
Well,
think,
I don't know how busy you are, you aren't, but I mean, if
but I think
you can have it before the 26th.
Just get in touch if you want help, I'll gladly help, and it's not.
I think you made a valid suggestion tonight, so I would like to hear what you have to say.
I think that the staff has done a lot of work on this to put this together based on the requirements for each of the positions, and that's based on the duties and responsibilities of the township government. And they are the administrative staff of the township. So I take what they write very seriously. They know more about their jobs and more about the duties under second-class township code than I ever will. So I think it's really important to listen to the staff, and they are professionals. They're consummate professionals, and I depend on them to provide the recommendations. I don't see anything in there that is out of order in terms of level of responsibility or, in terms of compensation issues. But I think it's worth taking another look at it, see if we can sharpen things up and get additional input as necessary and maybe further refine them. But I do want to point out with the caveat that we can change job descriptions anytime we need to. It is the authority of this board to do that and any board to do that. So, but it's important because job duties and job descriptions change with needs.
Well, do I hear a motion to move it up to the October 26th meeting?
I think that's a good suggestion, Dave.
You wanna
And I
make
would
that
move to
motion?
do that.
And I think we need to take into account and get some help from Mr. Moyer and take into account.
I agree.
Clear accountability for positions, even though the statements are in here, I think we need to know. Because that is important, and I've dealt with a lot of that in the past also.
All right, so who wants to make the motion?
I moved to move it to the 26th for further review.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Now, next up is direct staff to advertise for public hearing on an ordinance to withdraw from the Center Region COG local planning services in 2025.
Okay. Since I'm on the executive committee for
Go
the
ahead.
COG, COG has made it clear that they are having difficulties hiring planners. And they, in fact, I think they lost their last planner this week. And most of the municipalities, I think Patton has filed intent to withdraw from local planning. Ferguson, the borough, and College have already withdrawn, I believe.
They have their own planner, in-house.
They have their own
planners,
planners. Is Harris still employing a planner?
No,
They withdrew.
yeah.
And
Well,
actually,
I don't
Mark,
know if they're withdrawing, I know they're decreasing,
okay.
the number of hours per planner, and my understanding is they plan on withdrawing, but I don't know whether they acted on that.
I heard some discussion about that, plus Mark Bogle is now their manager,
Right.
so, and he was the senior planner at COG, and he was our planner for a while.
Excellent planner, by the way.
Yeah, so they don't have a planner to offer us, and for the coming year, we're going to need a planner, a planning service outside of Center Region Planning Agency. And the Center Region Planning Agency does a wonderful job of planning.
They do.
I mean, Corey Rilk did a great job. Mark Bokel was fabulous. And we wish that we still had them. I mean, they did the work for us. They did an excellent job, so. But we have to have an alternative because the planning services just are not there through the COG. So we have to come up with an alternative. We are keeping with regional planning, so that we are going to stay we'll maintain that regional plan through COG. So that part's, stays in place, and it's essential we do that. But and we have to give them a year's notice, so we have to decide this year whether or not we're going to pull out of local planning for 2025. 2024 is a done deal. The only thing that we're going to decide in 2024 is what percentage of planning are we going to have. So,
What
just a
percentage of the
synopsis.
local planner's time
Right.
we will have? And if they don't have any local planners, it doesn't matter what percentage. Unfortunately. Okay, well, do I hear a motion to advertise for the ordinance change?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Moved and second. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye on the advertising.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. All right. Center Region Council of Governments Land
Dave.
Acquisition Discussion.
Dave,
Or Zoning Officer Planner proposal. Need to go like this. Zoning officer and planner proposal, discussion and possible action. We have a proposal to hire a company that is willing to supply us with a zoning officer. We are going, is Patton Township already done with us, or are they?
No, not till
To the end of the year.
December 31st, yes.
Okay, so this would be for next year, get a new zoning officer and planner to work with the township.
Can you want to briefly, Dave, say the reason why we need a zoning officer is because Nicole's, the township decided to not.
Patton Township decided.
Patton Township decided not to contract her out because it's too much of her time. They need her, more of her time to do the work that they need in Patton Township, as I understand it. So we have to find a zoning officer for 2024. And a planner.
Apparently.
For 2025 or whenever.
Yeah. So, does anybody want to make a motion on that?
Well, did you want to look at the proposal, or?
You want to throw it up there?
Yeah, what do we know about this company? Well, this is,
JHA Companies, is the name of the company,
yes,
and that's Corey Rilk's company.
that's who he's employed with, yes.
And Corey used to be this Center Region Planning Agency's planner that was assigned to Halfmoon Township.
So they offer a number of services, and planning is a service that they do offer. They are currently working with some smaller townships. I know he said they just wrote an Act 537 plan for one of the townships, so they do have experience in planning. They offer other services that we're not in need of, but
Do they offer zoning services as well?
zoning is a newer thing that they're doing, yes.
Okay.
Well, the good thing is, it's somebody that is familiar, highly familiar with Halfmoon Township. I think he's a certified municipal planner. I think everybody in there was, formerly at the COG. And Corey had always done an excellent job and stood up for the township and did what we needed him to do. And he did the right thing, and that's the important part.
Even if, no matter who it is, whether it's Corey or someone else in the future, I think the big advantage of having a company do the zoning as well as the planning, is that we pay for the work that they do. And when Center Region provides a planner, that's a full-time employee at the COG. We, by a percentage, in other words, we have to pay for a percentage of that employee's work or their time there. Okay, regardless of how much or how little work is done. I think there's a potential for savings, but that's not the main reason for doing this. The main reason for doing this is simply have a planner available and have a zoning officer available, because they're getting harder and harder to come by. So, and you want certified, competent people to do the work to them.
Have other options been explored, or is this a position you would put out for bid?
Well, this is a professional position, so it doesn't need to be put up for bid. My druthers would be that, unfortunately, Trish and Tom Zilla and Corey Rilk and Mark Vocal still be Center Region planners. I've always been a big proponent of the Center Region Planning Office. It's the job that Center Region does best, is that local planning and regional planning. And unfortunately, I don't know what happened to the glue that holds that place together in there, but everything is just falling apart. And some people retired, and other people just found better things. Some people say, well, the money wasn't that good, but I think there's some other issues going on in the discussions that I've had, and I'm not gonna get into them in public, but we need a backup. And we need a good backup that's ready to hit the ground running. And I think in this particular case, the individuals that they can put forward are able to do that for us. And although the township has slowed to about nothing for growth, I mean, we only had 130 some 130-some people increased the township's population in the last 10 years, which is an anomaly from our history, at least for the last prior to 30 years. You know, we've had some big issues come up. The Maloney property up here at the end of the township, I mean, that's a big subdivision. Hallbakers could be a big subdivision. I mean, Gray's Woods is not stopping. I, you know, hear the hammers and the saws and the beep, beep, beep from the trucks every day. Eventually, they will be on Halfmoon Township's border if they're not there. They're already there. So, we're gonna need big guns to deal with it. And I think, you know, having a company like this with the people that they have with their experience, because we can no longer rely on Center Region. And Center Region might, you know, might surprise us. They might come back in 2024, have great planners, and it's a super thing, and maybe we don't go anywhere and just, you know, stick with Center Region planning. But I think we need to be prepared just in case.
Yeah, I don't think this would have even been an issue had the planning issue with Center Region come up,
It
where they
wouldn't
don't
be an
have the
issue in my
staff.
mind at all. Had Center Region planning, you know, kept a full staff
Right.
people in there.
So
We
this
need
is,
them when we need them.
this is listed as an alternate. So there is someone in Central Region still that might,
Well, Jim May's about to retire.
He retires in November, and their last planner, I think, just quit this week,
Yeah.
Her last day is Friday.
And as
They don't
far as
have
I
a plan.
know, there's nobody waiting in the wings, at least,
Yep.
there's not been any conveyance of information from the COG administration.
and there's not other options. I don't know, I don't see how you can be really comfortable with a construction company
Well, it's
coming
not a
into a
construction
township that
company,
wants to
Ray.
stay rural. as your
It's
planner.
not a construction company.
They are, they're a construction and engineering company.
They are,
Their focus is on building things, getting things built.
but.
But they
there's
have other
also-
specialties as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
the core, if you read their website, go through it, they are a company of engineers and construction people, and they like to build things. So it just, maybe it doesn't bother you, it just bothered me that that kind of person from that background would be sitting here reviewing plans. You would think the tendency would be to, let's get her done, let's build her, not, let's look at what the township
Well,
wants and
The person
What we
who
can do
does the
better.
planning review has to follow our ordinances.
All depends on their client.
So they can't, you know, they can't come in here and say, well, we'll just waive the rules
Yeah,
and let the
understand.
developer do what they want. I will tell you, coming from the land development background myself, although I'm not pro land development, but that's what I did for a living for a number of years, that there is a certain advantage to having engineers and surveyors review these things, because they see things that we don't necessarily see as lay people. You know, just because you go to school, get a degree in planning, get a master's in planning, planning has a lot of aspects to it. But a lot of times engineering detail, like there are things that the township's gonna be working on here to amend our subdivision land development regulations that I feel that the ordinances are weak on, and we're gonna, you know, just from my background, I look at things, see, I know what bugs developers when you look at ordinances. And having that engineering background, or somebody with an engineering background as a planner coming in here, is gonna be able to say, hey, you know, we should increase the radiuses here, we need longer tangents, we need, you know, these other recommendations as far as public sewer goes, over and above. And I wish we'd had some of that before a certain development came in, and well, I'm not gonna name.
I have nothing against engineers, I like engineers, some of my best friends are engineers. But,
But
you know,
I
if there's
understand
no,
what you're
if
saying.
there's
I would
no
like
other
that.
option, I'd just be very careful that
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
short-term contract, that it's as needed, that it's no long-term commitment, and you can see how it goes.
Well, we do need a zoning officer anyway,
So that I can see, zoning officer, you follow the rules,
Well,
people
can
do
I-
things right or wrong.
Can I say something here?
Sure.
I'd like to offer staff the opportunity to comment on this proposal. Do you have any comments? Any comment about as to the information you've been able to gather on the company and their capabilities?
The only thing I can attest to, because I didn't work with them specifically when they helped with the DEP issue, that's primarily what they do is environmental. To my knowledge, they may have a construction piece, but they're primarily environmental, from what I was told. They do dabble in engineering, planning, zoning. Basically, if you're willing to pay them, they will attempt anything. Is that the company, you know?
Well, but that's not the point. Are they experienced, certified in the practice of municipal planning
Yes,
and zoning?
yes.
So they have expertise in those
They work
areas.
with a lot of the smaller townships up north.
Right.
Specific townships I cannot mention.
I mean, they're not doing it as a sideline. They're professional planners. They do professional planning and zoning.
Correct.
And I am comfortable working with Corey, as he was our planner. And Reed, I can assure you, he is not a planner.
No, I know
that
Corey,
is
it's
like,
fine.
I
If
love
Corey's
to build
sitting across the
things.
table
Well,
from the developer,
I'll
I
say
feel
something
comfortable.
else. I think it's best that we defer this to a later date to decide, that we review other options to this company, and see what the other options are, see if there's any other options that match this. We have experience with one person in the company. Okay, do we have experience with anybody else in the company?
No, however, it has already been stated Corey will be your zoning officer planner.
Okay, but it merits, I think it's worth taking a look for comparison purposes to see what else is out there. I like the proposal because I know Corey as well. I think they're a competent company and based on how they handled this job out here. But also, I like the idea that they're a contract service. We can choose to use them or not use them. For that matter, we could have more than one of them. We could have more than one service available to us. One thing I do believe in is always having a backup plan. When, you know, in case something happens and you don't have one service, you have another one you can use. So.
Or, Mr. Piper, can I clarify?
Sure.
So what we're talking about for tonight is just the staff's recommending that because we won't have a zoning officer
After the end of the year.
after beginning January 1. We will still have planner as available from COG. So all this is doing is saying that we are gonna contract them for zoning officer services, which is what we'll need, and as an alternate planner, and this is just for 2024,
Or
correct?
planning as needed.
We're planning as needed if we need additional, and we know it will be Corey for 2024, so is this a good way to try them out, and then also look when we need to make the decision for permanent for 2025, then potentially look at some other ones if we feel so
That's
inclined?
how I see it.
For 2024, yeah.
Yes, so
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about
Because Corey
tonight.
could leave the company and maybe we're not
Right.
happy with the next guy, but
We're in Center Region Planning for another year.
Yeah, because we're gonna need a zoning officer starting 1/1.
That's one thing we do need more
Yes.
quickly, yeah.
So I would be in favor of this as for 2024 for the zoning officer and alternate planner, and then go from there.
That's fine. You wanna-
you wanna make that a motion or?
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Now, I feel better knowing that we have a zoning officer, and I feel better because if Center Region does get a new planner, and maybe they're the best people in the world, but they're gonna be green, most likely, especially on the existing thing that we're dealing with, so.
And you know why that is? I found, what I was told at COG was that when they hire a planner, they're typically trained or educated in metropolitan planning. Then they have to train them to be more tailored toward the type of municipalities or the type of municipalities that we live in. So that's why they go from most of those kind of people
Urban
end up
to
in a big
rural.
city.
Yep.
So they have to sort of train them to handle smaller types of municipalities, different types of municipalities.
Okay. Next up, Center Region Council of Governments Land Acquisition. Without going into too much detail, which I don't want to name properties or anything, apparently Center Region Council of Governments is looking at purchasing a parcel of land for some alternate activities or future use. I did talk to Ron today, and I did talk to Patty this later today. I personally am okay with it, but I think that at this point, the only thing I'm willing to approve would be to have a appraisal done.
Dave, can I give it a little bit of overview since this
came from If the you want to,
since
yes.
this came from the facilities committee?
Do you want any one of these?
Yeah, could you bring up, and there is information that's public that we can discuss outside of
Yeah, I
exec
don't want to
session.
step outside.
So
the
if you
limits.
bring up the first one, the property information, just so folks see, because one of the things on this is the typical location, location, location. So right there, if you stop you can see the green, that's the property in question, it's 1.98 acres, and then over Amy, yeah, that's the COG building. So, and then currently, so that's the property in question. COG has asked the owner about that multiple times over the years to say, if it's for sale, please let us know. So they did let us know. So now what we need to and then the reason COG is interested in this, and if you can bring then up the lease, is we're currently leasing space that beyond what we can accommodate in the COG building that was shown on the map. So if you see the different things that we're leasing, our lease bill comes up to, at the bottom there, is $333,156 a year. So we're leasing different properties in different locations, so it's not just paying the rent, it's also people are spread out. There's not like a campus effect and people are in one area. So the idea is, and the facilities committee is working on long-range planning of what we'll need as the center region grows, the COG's gonna grow, and they wanna be prepared if we can cut some, if we have to keep leasing or increase our leasing, then it would make sense to potentially put up another building, and if we have the property already in hand for that, then we would be further ahead. So that's and I think there's one more thing that you have up there, Amy, which was just basically, I think, an overview of some of the reasons, basically the location, and you can, let's see, potential for other uses even before we would build, maybe parking, charging. So the first step on this, we can't go right to, do we want to purchase this? Because as a COG, as a government entity, there has to be an appraisal. We can't purchase anything that's over the appraisal price. So what they're looking for, what facilities recommended back to the executive committee, and then ultimately the potential to go to general forum on the 23rd of this month, is should we take the first step, which is to get an appraisal, and I think in just a phase one, a small environmental study to make sure it passes that. And the facilities committee offered to put the money up for any needed studies to get us to the first step. So what we're talking about on the 23rd is not whether we're actually going to purchase it, it's whether we want to take that first step to see if we can purchase it, and then if we want to purchase it, and then what different finance options or, may be available.
Is the appraisal made public once that's done? Was that discussed at all, or is that private until the deal is set?
I
The
don't know.
appraisal is the property of the person paying for the appraisal. Now, I guess since it's a COG, that could be public information.
But it's a
I imagine.
land purchase, and that's an
Yeah, I
executive.
imagine we'll probably go into executive session, I'm guessing potentially on the 23rd. I don't know how that'll, depending on what they have, but like I said.
Didn't know what was discussed at that particular.
Right,
place, so.
like I said, so basically, we're not making any decision here. This is just all information, knowing that on the 23rd, there's the potential that this could come up to, are the municipalities in favor of taking that first step of finding out what it appraises at, and if it meets, the basic environmental criteria.
Well, I think there's another criteria that it needs to meet, is the feasibility of putting an actual building,
Right.
an occupiable building on a
And they are
2-acre
checking,
lot.
we are checking with Ferguson on a few things as a,
Because they probably have a
Right.
calculator that could determine how big of a building you could build.
Right.
And how many people you could house, because you have to have parking to go with it. you have proper cartways and all those things. And Ferguson
Well, you
Township is
got-
the
Right, the
most
build out,
regulated
Yeah.
municipality in
Well,
the
that's
center
what
region.
Ms. Hartle and myself discussed. Ferguson Township is a very difficult municipality to develop in. So we want to make sure that if we're going to go forward with the project, that it's a doable project.
The other thing I want to point out is, we talk about leased buildings. To build a new building, you know, is a lot more expensive than it used to be.
Yes.
Okay, so you pay $450,000 or $400,000 for this property, then you spend another $20 million building the building. Okay, well, that pays a lot of leases for a long time.
Yes, it does.
And the other thing is, with ownership of a building, it comes that there are costs related to owning a building and responsibilities. They're talking, I was in the budget discussions today, the budget reviews for and one was for the libraries. And the library building down at Skull Library is 18 years old. They're talking about replacing the HVAC systems, replacing the roof, doing all kinds of additional, you know, infrastructure changes, significant costs. So, you know, owning a building is not as cheap as it used to be. And
It's not going to get any cheaper either.
there are advantages to leasing that you don't have with ownership.
Yep.
So,
All
anyway,
these things, I guess,
beside the
need to be
point.
worked out.
Yeah,
But
there
at
are.
this point, does anybody from the board have any harsh feelings or good
I don't
feelings?
object to doing getting an appraisal. So, but I think what should have happened already is using a calculator to determine the feasibility of even the reason for even owning the space.
Well, I think even if the COG buys it and they don't end up doing with it, I think it will retain its value in the long run. It's definitely a hedge against inflation no matter what. And it'll be able to be used for something hopefully favorable in the future.
Well,
It's large enough.
yeah,
Although you may have to put a stormwater pond on for the COG building, so.
I think there should always be need behind purchase when it comes to government.
Go ahead, Roseanne.
How would this benefit Half Moon for them to have the property and the building potential?
As our membership of COG, because we're putting now money towards paying all the leases.
But then we would be paying the mortgage or whatever to
Right.
build.
Right. I mean, our 4% share, yeah, right.
And it may be something that in the future, maybe part of those things would actually be there, maybe the rest is leased just because of the cost of the building. We don't know right now, but a real estate appraisal doesn't really cost that much money.
No.
And I'm not willing to vote for an environmental study, just at this point, until we know if it's even something that the COG wants
I
to
think
do.
all we're deciding tonight is whether we agree
Well,
with getting an appraisal.
Well, we
right?
don't have to really decide anything, this is just for your
We're
information.
just
for
discussing
discussion.
it because at the general
Thanks.
forum meeting, I guess that it's a
Yeah.
maybe vote.
And it's gonna be discussed, I think, at your 19th exec session,
Yeah.
before the meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? Maybe somebody can answer. All right, let's move on. Township reports, Treasurer, Secretary, and Public Works Department. Does anybody have anything to add? Township staff. Authority Board and Committee reports. Anybody have anything to add to those?
There wasn't much happening last month,
Well, apparently not.
between last meeting and this meeting.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ms. Squire, you're on. Oh, wait a minute. We got a question in the back.
Actually, I had a question. About the Half Moon, Upper Bald Eagle COG meetings.
Okay.
You know, not much happens, no one says much? Do they say anything?
Whatever I get and can actually report on, I give it to the staff and they post it. They post it as a link, right? No, you don't?
No, we never get any information.
What's that? Or linking the report, yeah.
So there's a way we could read what was discussed
Click the.
on the COG meetings?
To the extent that yeah.
If you click on the link, it brings up Ron's report of what happened at the meeting.
And
Yeah,
this was a
but-
very short paragraph, as I
Yeah,
recall.
but basically he said they talked about the usual stuff and that was it. And he asked a couple of questions and no one was there to answer. My question is, I know that the EMS has been going around to all the townships and presenting their budget proposal. And I was wondering if anybody at COG had any response to that. Because we know they
Mark,
came
you
to
were there.
Halfmoon, but they
Yes.
came to everybody else, I'm assuming.
Yes, the Port Matilda,
We know what you did.
yes.
He provided the report.
Yes, I provided the report. We went to all 5 municipalities in the area. I was at 4 of them. 2 of them were on the same day and night, so I couldn't obviously be at both. As for what was reported at the COG meeting, there was a discussion of the need of the fire hall to have a replacement air conditioner, the air conditioner and heater in the bay section is broken. Is the bay section or is it in the back room?
No, so the furnace that supplies our lounge area, kitchen, bathrooms is out, it's shot.
That's the fire hall.
Yeah, that's the fire
That's
hall.
the fire
Okay.
hall. Also, we have a generator that is shot and undersized for the building. So currently, we're trying to get quotes to get that replaced before winter because as you all know, we've had to use it as a shelter the last couple years in the winter time. And currently, we don't have anything to power the building, provide heat, do what we need to do during an emergency, so.
You're talking about the generator.
The generator, yes.
Okay. The furnace you're replacing with a split system heat pump.
Yes, the furnace.
You have the
which-
proposal already for that.
Yes, so the furnace, which was currently a gas furnace, is getting replaced with a heat pump with AC capabilities because the fire hall does not have central air. We have window units, and we only have 2 of them. So,
And was that discussed at the previous, because I did not attend the previous meeting, attended in my stead.
so that was discussed at this last meeting.
Mhm. I know it was discussed at the last meeting. Was
Yeah.
it discussed prior, the
No.
previous? No, okay.
No. So fundraising has decided to pay for the furnace at this time,
You guys have natural gas, or was your furnace propane?
just propane.
There is no natural gas in Port Matilda.
I had no idea whether it was or wasn't.
We carry heating oil in buckets.
I know Lincoln's.
Big bonfires.
It's like Dickens.
We did. All right.
Does that answer your question?
What about the EMS?
There was not much of an EMS report because most of that was covered with the meetings at the various municipalities. Since
Okay.
we had just presented all of the information to the various municipalities, there wasn't any real change from
Time.
that because the last Half Moon meeting was, what, 4 days,
Yeah.
5 days before? So we'd presented 5 days earlier to you guys and not much changed in 5 days. I mean, not much has changed in 2 weeks,
Okay,
so.
thanks.
Is your borough building open yet?
The borough building has been substantially completed. We are working on communications on it. There's some communications issues that we are getting resolved, and then we will be moving.
Looks nice.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the construction company
It's been a
did a
long
good
time,
job putting it together.
I'm glad you guys kept the character of the original
Yeah.
train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep. Diversity, equity, and
Okay.
inclusion.
All right.
We can all go home.
Yes. So, good evening. I'm Virginia Squire. I live on Loveville Road in Halfmoon Township. I'm certain now we all know about the anti-Semitic literature that was recently distributed to Jewish families in State College this month. So I would like to take this moment to inform the board and members of the community of events that are being held where we can show our support and respect for those who have a different belief system than we might. From October 23rd to 30th, the Pascarella Spiritual Center will be hosting a visit from Tibetan monks. They will be creating at Pascarella a sand mandala that will then be destroyed. They're also hosting workshops on meditation, spirituality, lessons in Tibetan cooking, as well as the sale of Tibetan goods. For more information, you can go to the Pascarella Spiritual Center website. Monday, October 30th, the author Diana Kraft, she co-wrote a book called My Friend Anne Frank. She is going to be at SCLO Library doing a small author visit and discussion. And Sunday, November 5th, the State College Choral Society will be performing Voices of the Holocaust at 3 o'clock at the recital hall. The songs they're going to be singing are from poems that Jewish people wrote during the years of persecution in the 1940s. This is just to highlight a few of the many, many events going on around us to help create a more informed, welcoming, and inclusive community. So, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
I have something. I didn't know if I was on there or not.
I'll put you on there. Go.
All right. So, John Witherite, Fort Matilda Fire Chief. You guys know me. I handed out a paper to each and every one of you before the meeting here from Glick. So, when we bought the new engine rescue, we decided to hold off on Insta-chains. So those of you who don't know what that is, it is a chaining system in inclement weather during snow and ice. If we lose traction, we can push a button and chains automatically come down. They give us traction. Currently, our engine rescue does not have them. We were trying to save some money at that time because we were waiting on our quarterly payments to come in. So here we are in the fall, winter's around the corner. Our budget for the fire company is very tight right now because of expenses and stuff breaking. So I came to the Halfmoon board to ask for you guys to purchase them out of the fire tax money that was set aside. And this quote is an older quote. I was unable to get a hold of Glick today to get this revised. So it's $3,550. And what I'm asking for is up to $4,000 to get those put on and installed.
What's the ETA on installing?
So I will have to ask. When I talked to them a couple weeks ago, they were in the end of October. So
Why wasn't this discussed last week?
Because honestly, I forgot about it.
Well, you know, that's the forum because the COG manages the funding for the fire company and its budget. So that's the time to be talking about this, not tonight. So I don't know what to say about it.
The reason that I'm here is because if you recall the last COG meeting, we were taking money from allocated items and reorganizing it because we're almost spent. So I know that we had talked in the past that there was some money set aside through the fire tax, and I figured that this was one item that would be a huge help to you guys because we have to come over a mountain in the winter. So I can go to COG, but I don't think there's enough money in COG to pay for it.
All right, because this just kind of got dropped on us and the board hasn't had a chance to discuss it. Why don't we put that on our agenda for the 18th? And then the board can, you can get the rest of the information for us maybe.
Yeah.
For the meeting on the 18th.
Yep.
That's not too far from now to ruin anybody's day. And we can talk about the rest of the fire tax. Probably can get the numbers together for us.
Yeah. And like I said, normally I would just go there, but we're a little tight on the budget, so.
All right. You available on the 18th at all?
I will see what I can do.
All right. Get a hold of Amy, make sure she has this stuff ahead of time so we can take a look at it. As soon as you get something from Glick.
Okay.
And then get an estimate on when they can install.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
if you would, please.
Good deal.
I wasn't sure what the thing was. It was on the desk here when I walked in, so. it was
No, I just thought about it.
Very short notice.
We were talking about winter and I had actually forgot that it's a standard
It's
feature.
been
that-
so warm. You could.
Yeah, yep. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming in. All right, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Moving second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.